Qengeba Sojola here. I really think something fishy is happening in East Africa. Please help me out and let's make sure that I'm not just being paranoid. In 2016, at a counterterrorism summit, Benjamin Netanyahu, the president of Israel, met with about 7 East African leaders to address certain terrorism issues that the countries were facing. Now, in this meeting, this is where he mentioned a statement, particularly being quoted from the founders of modern Zionism nationalists, right? He said this famous statement that says, after I liberate Israel, right, I will go to Africa to go liberate the black people. In this meeting, mostly what was agreed upon or certain deals which were signed were made up of security deals. Israel supplying weapons and intelligence information and technology to these specific 7 East African countries. But when you look at the general strategy of Israel when it comes to Africa, right, it is to particularly supply weapons, right, and security and intelligence technology, right, and agriculture, right. There's a number of innovations, particularly in agriculture, that come from Israel. For example, the one that I know is known as the drip technology. It's some sort of irrigation technology that reduces the amount of water that a plant would need to grow. Now, particularly after that counterterrorism summit, right, in 2016, there has been very suspicious behavior, particularly from these East African countries. Now, if you look at Rwanda, right, and its involvement in the particularly the eastern parts of the DRC, right? It is believed that Rwanda is funding M23 to basically cause chaos in the eastern parts of the DRC so that the West can be able to access certain minerals, particularly in the eastern parts of DRC. Now, the second aspect is that Rwanda signed a deal with UK to accept asylum seekers, right? Particularly African asylum seekers that go to the UK, right, for opportunities, for a better life, right? Accept those asylum seekers back into Rwanda, right? So these two for me are really raise questions on what exactly they are getting from the West. Now, in the case of Uganda, right, there are a number of aspects that we can look at. The first one is the Ugandan government accepting intelligence technology from Israel to spy on their opposition and particularly the LGBT movement. Now, another flashpoint is the vote, which was done by the judge, right, from Uganda in the case of genocide that South Africa um, basically opened against Israel at the ICJ, right? And particularly after that case, that Ugandan judge, that female Ugandan judge, ascended to the office of vice president of the ICJ. Another major one, right, is Uganda and Israel busy with a recruitment deal to basically send young Ugandans to work in Israeli farms. Now, when we look at Kenya, right, under William Ruto, the president of Kenya, firstly, he expressed solidarity with Israel as a genocide was going on in Gaza. Number two, him inviting the Queen of Great Britain to his country was very suspicious. And number three, him being excited about a trip that he is to take to the United States, right? Dubbing it that it's the first trip in a while that a Kenyan president has actually gone to the United States. And in December of 2023, Kenya agreed to send about 1.5 thousand, basically 1,500 young people to go work in Israeli farms. Another suspicious event about Kenya is the fact that they are sending policemen to Haiti, right? And they are trying to push through with that deal even though their highest court declared it unconstitutional. And this one is a major one, right? The moving of the UN offices from New York, right, to Nairobi, right? That seems very suspicious. Why all of a sudden such a big organization moving to particularly Kenya? When we look at Malawi, right, particularly in January 2024, they agreed with the Israeli government that they'll be airlifting about 600 young Malawians to go and work in the farms in Israel, right? Um, and within the next 5 years, they are planning to send about 5,000 to about 15,000 young Malawians to go work at the Israeli farms. Even Tanzania has a similar recruitment deal in progress that will allow a number of Tanzanian young people to go work in Israeli farms. When we look at the case of the DRC, right, Democratic Republic of Congo, there has been reports that were released specifically in the early parts of the year, about first week of January 2024, that the DRC government is in secret talks and negotiations with the Israeli government, right, in accepting the displaced Palestinians, right, as asylum seekers in the DRC. Now, I know the DRC is in the central parts of Africa, but the DRC is part of a community that is known as the East African Community. Now, in conclusion, I just need your help, right? In stating that, am I being paranoid by seeing this sort of movement, particularly in East Africa, right? Or is there really something suspicious that is happening in the East Africa, particularly them working with the West, right, to undermine certain decisions that global leaders have taken?